Hi, everybody, and welcome to English Digest. I'm Pat.
And I'm Kat.
And we're looking at quite a complicated issue in today's article.
Yeah, I would say it's even complicated for us to understand because neither one of us is from India. And I don't think either one of us has any experience with surrogacy. As far as I know, surrogacy is a kind of complicated issue everywhere. Not just in India, but I kind of feel like this is a good way to focus on some of the things that people talk about involving this. So maybe we just get straight into it and talk about what surrogacy is and why it's such a complicated thing.
I think that's a great idea. Let's read through the article and deal with this issue. In February last year, the Indian government took a significant step toward regulating the practice of surrogacy in India. The legislature drafted the Surrogacy Regulation Bill, which bans commercial surrogacy and severely restricts altruistic surrogacy, making it solely available to childless heterosexual Indian couples. While supporters of the bill say it protects women within a dangerously under-regulated industry, critics warn it could actually disenfranchise these women and put them at far greater risk. India's commercial surrogacy industry has thrived since 2002, when it was legalized to promote medical tourism. Compared with the US, where parents often pay $150,000 or more, the cost of surrogacy there is extremely low. This, in addition to cultural pressures on Indian couples to have children, has resulted in over 3,000 fertility clinics popping up in India, generating around 66.1 billion NT dollars annually. Within this industry, surrogate mothers can expect to earn up to 485,691 NT dollars per birth, a substantial payout for women in poverty. While potentially lucrative, this also leads to exploitation. A government study found that many commercial surrogates are unaware of the long-term health risks of repeated surrogacy. What's more, agencies often withhold payment in the event of unhealthy births and miscarriages. Then there is the ethical concern regarding the commodification of women's bodies, a worry shared by other surrogacy-banning countries like Germany and France. While support for the criminalization of commercial surrogacy is widespread, some believe an outright ban to be dangerous. When commercial surrogacy for gay couples was outlawed in 2012, Indian clinics began sending surrogate mothers abroad, requiring them to carry out their pregnancies in environments where they were strangers to the local language and culture. It's been argued that India should continue to permit commercial surrogacy but tighten regulations, particularly those surrounding the well-being of surrogate mothers. Whether the new bill will reflect this advice before it becomes law remains to be seen.
All right, so this is a very complicated issue, like we said. It's about India's surrogacy shutdown. And I think before we get into anything else, we need to explain what surrogacy is. So surrogacy, or being a surrogate, is when, for any of various reasons, usually it's because the woman in a couple or the couple is both men and can't have babies, they hire a woman to get pregnant with somebody else's sperm.
Material, basically.
Yeah, and carry the baby to term. And then the baby becomes the other couple's or the other parents' as soon as she gives birth. So it's not her baby legally.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, okay, man A, woman B, they want to make a baby, woman B can't have it. So they put man A and woman B's kind of genetic material inside woman C, who bears the child.
Yeah.
So the child doesn't really have any DNA of the woman it was growing inside.
Yes.
Although it was fed by her and, there were some cells passing back and forth.
Yeah.
But in terms of what it'll look like parents A and B.
That's right. Yeah. So it's their material, but a different womb. Let's say that. It's like a womb for rent, I think, is what people have compared it to.
Yeah, exactly. Like someone who can have babies is hiring out their ability to do that for people who can't.
Yeah. And you can understand how this could be very complicated and very controversial.
Yes. And so we're looking at this as a shutdown. If you think of a shutdown, you often think of turning off a computer or when, say, a factory is shut down, all the machines are turned off. And that's the idea here. They're trying to shut down something. They're trying, as a noun, it's all one word. As a verb, it would be two words. But it's basically trying to stop something from happening, stop something from operating.
So in February last year being 2020, the Indian government took a significant step toward regulating the practice of surrogacy in India. And I would say regulating is actually quite a light word here because it seems like you said, it's a shutdown.
It is. The whole idea of regulating is a key word here. What it means is controlling it, making sure there are proper laws that apply to it, giving it more oversight to make sure everything is done right. But you can regulate something in sort of different ways. It could be a very light way where you're just kind of keeping an eye on it and making sure there are rules. Or there is heavy regulating, which is where you put in loads of extra rules and actually make it very difficult to happen at all.
Yeah.
And often when there is heavy regulation of something, people start trying to go outside the rules to get it done. You think of when the US banned alcohol. Alcohol was heavily regulated. It could still be sold in a few places, but because it was so heavily regulated, everybody broke the law and went outside the law just to get alcohol.
Yep, it actually ended up creating a bigger problem than there originally was.
So, and that's kind of the worry about heavy regulation in this case as well, as we'll get to later on.
Right.
So, what did happen last year? We see the legislature drafted the Surrogacy Regulation Bill, that's its name, which bans commercial surrogacy and severely restricts altruistic surrogacy. I'm going to stop the sentence there because
it's quite long.
We've already hit some difficult words, starting with legislature. The legislature is a country's or an area's. India has states. It's their lawmaking body. So here in Taiwan, we have the legislative yuan.
Yeah.
They're the people who somebody proposes a law, it's debated, and then there's a vote and it's passed into law eventually when the president would then sign it.
Yes.
Kind of thing. And the president can ask for a law to be introduced, but the president can't just make a law. It has to go through the legislature first.
Right. And the same is true for the US, and I think the UK has the parliament.
Yeah,
I guess is what your legislature would be.
Yeah, we've got a slightly different structure, but yes, the legislature is the House of Commons.
Okay.
Yeah, the lower chamber.
Got it. So then this surrogacy regulation bill is restricting, it's banning commercial surrogacy, which means surrogacy for pay, and restricting altruistic surrogacy. Now, altruistic is an adjective from the noun altruism, which means to do something out of the goodness of your heart. Basically, to do something out of a desire to be kind, out of a desire to help somebody else. So in this case, altruistic surrogacy is surrogacy without pay, just because the woman wants to help this couple.
Yeah, maybe that woman has lost her husband. She feels like she'll never marry again, but she still wants to kind of take part in childbirth and carrying a child. And we often altruistic surrogacy might be very close family and friends.
Yeah, like sister maybe?
Yeah, they know the couple in question. They're very close. They're good friends. They know they can't have children by themselves, so they step up and say, look, I'll have that baby for you. So that's what we kind of think of as, or I imagine more altruistic surgery it is. It's almost never going to be a stranger unless it's someone who's really volunteering for no money out of the goodness of their heart. But it could well be a close friend or relative.
Right. Somebody who says, like, I want to make this happen for you, so you don't have to pay me. I will just do this for you.
Yeah. But we see that even altruistic surrogacy, this kind, is being regulated and restricted. And we see in the article it's making making it solely available to childless heterosexual Indian couples. Solely basically means the same as only. It can only happen in this sole or only condition.
Yeah.
So if you said, I'm going to do something and I'm going to solely do sports today, it means you're only going to watch sports on TV.
Yep.
I'm going to clean the house, but actually I'm going to solely concentrate on the bathroom. You're only going to clean the bathroom.
Yeah, so solely is just a little bit fancier way to say only.
Right.
Yeah. And they're saying it's only or solely available to childless heterosexual Indian couples. Now, heterosexual, you could also say straight. It means people of the two different genders, man and woman, boy and girl, who are attracted to the opposite gender. Yeah, so basically the traditional idea of marriage in India, it's a man and a woman, and that's the only people who can have altruistic surrogacy now.
Yeah, a married couple who can't have their children by themselves.
Yep.
So we see in the introductory paragraph, while supporters of the bill say it protects women within a dangerously underregulated industry, critics warn it could actually disenfranchise these women and put them at far greater risk. So the supporters say, look, this industry, it's dangerous. There's not enough people checking to see everything's safe and healthy. We need a lot more regulations and laws and protections and licenses and regular checking up of all the clinics where it happens. However, the critics are saying it's disenfranchising the women who are doing it for the money and putting them at greater risk. To disenfranchise someone is to deprive these people of a right or a privilege that they should have. We often think about it in terms of voting. If someone is disenfranchised from voting, it means they lose their right to vote. Certain levels of criminals lose the right to vote. I think is it a federal crime or something?
Yeah,
in the US?
In the US, if you have a felony on your record, you are not in certain states you're not able to vote.
Okay.
In certain states you are, but it depends on the state. Everything depends on the state in the US.
Yeah, sure. But basically what it's saying is the women who want to use their bodies to make money because it's one of their only ways to get money, they're losing that right, because they're losing the choice to say, yes, I will do this, I will go through this procedure for the money.
Yeah.
And since they're losing the choice to be able to do it, they may decide to do it anyway in a less legal capacity, as we'll see later. So that's what people are saying. Like, if you stop them from doing it through a semi-regular way, they'll do it in a completely irregular way anyway.
Yeah, and I think this is a problem with any laws that regulate what people are able to do with their own bodies. Yeah, including, abortion or birth control, something like that.
Absolutely, yeah. It'll still happen, and so the more you stop it, the more it'll happen outside the law, which is where the danger comes in.
Yeah, exactly. So what is the background of this law and of this practice of surrogacy in India? It says, India's commercial surrogacy industry has thrived since 2002 when it was legalized to promote medical tourism. Now, thriving is kind of the opposite of what they're trying to do with banning. So when something is thriving, it means that it is doing extremely well. It's making a lot of money in this case, or it's like I said, it's doing extremely well.
Yeah, a lot of
people are doing it.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing it. And for medical tourism, they made this legal. They allowed women to use their bodies in this way, to choose to give birth to other people's kids, to promote medical tourism. So couples from all over the world would come to India to basically have a womb for rent, to have the baby done there. And that's it, because it was cheaper there, it was easier there, it was legal there.
Yeah.
And we kind of see the difference in costs here. So we see compared with the US, where parents often pay $150,000 or more, and that is to have a surrogate mother, to have someone deliver the baby. The cost of surrogacy there, meaning in India, is extremely low.
Yeah, exactly. So if, you want to have a baby and you really cannot carry it yourself in the US, I think most couples that elect for surrogacy would go overseas to find it. Like I've heard of them doing it in China as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, if you are going to have a medical tourism industry based around surrogacy, then that's of course you want it to be cheaper. This, in addition to cultural pressures on Indian couples to have children, has resulted in over 3,000 fertility clinics popping up in India and generating around 66.1 billion NT dollars annually. That's a lot of money. And that's a lot of money that India is going to lose if they ban it, don't you think?
It is, yeah. And restrict it, because what this means is that people are coming in abroad, and also there is that cultural pressure in India for people to have kids.
From what I've heard from friends who've lived in India, after they get married, the first thing people start asking you is, when are you going to have kids?
When are you going to have kids?
And they will never stop asking. Ever.
So a lot of clinics will turn up where poorer women are like, well, okay, I'll be the mother in this case and I'll help it happen. And so it's both domestic and local kind of business, and that results in all these fertility clinics.
Yeah, 3,000 of them. And India is a very large country, so I can understand how there would be that many. So, yeah, fertility here is a word that means, well, the ability to have babies. So fertility, if you are an infertile person, that means that you're not able to have a baby. Either like you're a man who's not able to give your material to have a baby, or you're a woman who's not able to carry one. That would be infertile. But if you are fertile, if you have fertility, that means you have the ability to carry and have a baby. And so that has to do with surrogacy, because surrogates have to be fertile. Yeah.
Yep, and fertility clinics are for all, it could be for just like, we're having a bit of trouble having a baby, we need some tests to make sure what's going on. And it can also be, okay, I'm pregnant, but maybe I'm in a risky category, so I would like a specialist doctor to help manage the process along, that kind of thing. So anything related to having babies, in this case, you would go to a fertility clinic, from kind of getting pregnant to going through the pregnancy.
And from what I've heard, a lot of Taiwanese couples go to fertility clinics when they want to have kids.
Age is a factor. I'm trying to remember if we did, or the places we went were more like just sort of hospital places, or
like they just want to make sure everything's good before they start trying, that sort of thing. Yeah.
All right, let's take a short break here. There's still quite a lot to get through, but we'll pick it up in part 2 in just a moment. Welcome back. So we're talking about the surrogacy industry in India and the new regulation that's coming in. And we've talked a bit about some of the rules, but we really want to concentrate on the mothers here, because it's their bodies that are at risk. And we can find out in this start of this next paragraph, the third one, why many people do it. We see within this industry, surrogate mothers, so that's the adjective form, can expect to earn up to 485,691 NT per birth. Very specific number.
Yeah.
Maybe that's...
I think it's converted from a US amount.
Yeah, or a rupee amount, which is the Indian currency. Either way, it is a substantial payout for women in poverty. A payout is a one-time payment for a particular job, a service. Maybe it's money you're owed, but it's basically, here's the money, here it is. That's the reward or fee for whatever has just happened.
Right, exactly. And I remember seeing a story about like one of these women who I think she's in her 30s. Her husband died. She has 2 kids to raise. So she decided to do surrogacy. And she's done 3 pregnancies and made a lot of money that she's able to use to send her kids to college.
Yeah, makes complete sense.
So yeah, it is a substantial payout. And it can actually help women get out of poverty. And while potentially lucrative, though, this also leads to exploitation. So we've got a positive word and a negative word here. Let's talk about lucrative first. Something that is lucrative is something that can help you to make a lot of money, or can get you a lot of money. So if you have a lucrative job, if you have a lucrative business, that means that it's something that is making you lots and lots of money. Yeah.
So people will do it because it's lucrative and they'll get rich, but this also leads to exploitation. To exploit something is to really take an advantage of a situation for your benefit, even if that involves using other people. And we use this almost always negatively, because someone is being exploited. They're having their dreams, they're having their needs basically used for somebody else's gain.
Yeah, or their bodies used for somebody else's gain.
exactly. So this kind of exploitation, which is the noun form, is basically, you can imagine poor women saying, yeah, I'd like to rent my womb out, and somebody going, okay, well, I know a way I can make a lot of money selling your womb and taking cuts and just doing it for the money and not being safe and taking advantage of these women's poor situation, possibly low education, just to really make money for themselves and not look after the mothers, not look after the babies, and exploit this need to get what they want.
Yeah, and groups like poor people, groups like women, are particularly easy to exploit because they, like you said, might have a lack of education or a lack of knowledge going into this. So
and the need is more desperate.
Exactly, yeah. So they're more willing to do things that they might not know everything about. So a government study found that many commercial surrogates are unaware of the long-term health risks of repeated surrogacy. That's something they should be informed about if they are going to be a surrogate. Like, you should go in with full knowledge, but apparently that is not what's happening.
Yep. If you just do it again and again and again, it's probably not going to be as good for you.
Yeah, and the more babies you have, the more your body's going to, not be able to do as well in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
What's more, agencies often withhold payment in the event of unhealthy births and miscarriages.
Ooh.
To withhold something means to not give it even though you should be giving it. It's kind of owed. So if a company is not happy with your performance, they might withhold some of your wages and say, we're not going to pay you or your full money now. We'll pay it next month if you do well.
That's garnishing your wages.
Yeah, or if there's some kind of contract deal, it says, well, you didn't fulfill your end of the bargain, so we'll withhold the full payment until you do fulfill it, something like that.
Yep.
So basically, they don't pay them the full amount, maybe they don't pay them any if there's an unhealthy birth or a miscarriage. So a miscarriage is when the pregnancy does not result in a happy outcome. The baby will die in the womb, or it will be stillborn, which is when it's born not alive. Something terrible like that.
Yeah, so a miscarriage means the death of the baby. Yeah. Then there is the ethical concern regarding the commodification of women's bodies, a worry shared by other surrogacy banning countries like Germany and France. So you can see India is not the only place that is doing this or has done this. There are numerous other countries that have banned surrogacy or made it very hard to get because of concerns like ethical concerns. Ethical means concerns about something being, right and being good for people, being moral or being just, something like that. So, is this a right thing to do? That's an ethical question.
Exactly. And what's up for ethical consideration here is the commodification of women's bodies. Commodification is to turn something into a commodity, which is a thing that can be bought and sold and rented and so on, and just treated like property rather than a person.
Yeah.
So it's, as we've kind of talked about, a womb for rent, and that's basically the commodification of it, turning what is, the miracle of childbirth into a business for popping out babies.
Yeah, and when you put it that way, it sounds shocking, but that's basically what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and we've seen other countries have banned it because they share this worries.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the conclusion and also look at some of the other kind of difficulties and things to be considered. So while support for the criminalization of commercial surrogacy is widespread, some believe an outright ban to be dangerous. So there is a lot of support for the idea of stop making this a job. Keep it for people who need babies, but don't make it a business. Keep that side of it as a criminal thing as possible. And that's why, for ethical reasons, commodification reasons, or for the sort of worry about agencies withholding payment and exploiting people, that's why there is support for this. But let's look at the other side. An outright complete ban could be dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. For the reasons we talked about before, that anything regulating people's bodies, they're going to try and do it anyway. And if they do it in an illegal way, then there's no regulation at all, and they probably will get hurt.
Yeah, and we kind of see an example of what happened in the past next.
Yeah, so when it says, when commercial surrogacy for gay couples was outlawed in 2012, Indian clinics began sending surrogate mothers abroad, requiring them to carry out their pregnancies in environments where they were strangers to the local language and culture. So, yeah, we see that there was already a law that kind of restricted commercial surrogacy, making it illegal for gay couples. That's what outlawing means. It makes it outside of the law, it makes it illegal, it makes it criminal. So basically, there's already been a partial ban. So, it was already saying that only heterosexual couples could have commercial surrogacy. Now it's heterosexual couples can only have altruistic surrogacy, so it's even farther banned. Yeah.
But we see that people, Indian clinics, got around this just by sending the mothers, the surrogate mothers, abroad, which meant that it still went on. Everybody still got paid. There was even less oversight and health concerns about what was going on. And these mothers were in strange countries where they couldn't speak the language. They didn't know the culture. They maybe couldn't talk to the doctors in their own language. And they still had to go ahead with everything, presumably because they'd signed the deal. They were being maybe exploited. They were just doing it for the desperate need for the money to get out of poverty.
Yeah.
So, as we've said from the start, it still goes on. They just find ways to get around whatever regulations are in place if the regulations are too tight.
And, particularly, how can they expect that this won't continue to happen?
Exactly.
Because, getting around those laws would mean sending them abroad again. So it might just end up happening even more.
Yeah, so this is a preferred idea here. The next sentence kind of shows what some people would prefer to happen. It's been argued that India should continue to permit commercial surrogacy, but tighten regulations, particularly those surrounding the well-being of surrogate mothers. So this is a different viewpoint. It's like, keep commercial surrogacy, keep this thing for money, and if you're going to regulate it, do all the regulations in favor of safety, in favor of health, in favor of less exploitation. Make the regulations about that, not who can do it and who should get it and who's it allowed for. Make all the laws to be about safety.
Yeah, so it's got to be about the safety of the mother who's carrying the child, not the people who are able to access it.
Yes, exactly, because it is all about the mother, and then the baby is once it's born. They're the ones who need the most protection. They're the ones who need the well-being taken care of to stop the exploitation, the sending abroad, and all the other stuff.
So what it says is whether the new bill will reflect this advice before it becomes law remains to be seen. So that means it hasn't really been set in stone yet. It's still being processed, and there's been delays because of COVID and all that.
Yeah.
But
different political groups are kind of having their say and trying to get their spin on the law and push one way, pull the other way. Exactly. We're not sure what the eventual surrogacy regulation bill will look like.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe by the time you hear this, maybe it will have been passed. You can look it up yourself and try to find out. But I think that's all we've got.
Yeah, we are out of time. Thanks for sticking with us through this pretty long, complicated, kind of difficult article.
Yeah, we hope you've learned something.
Yeah, we hope we've explained it in a way that helps you understand what it's all about. Thanks for listening, everyone. For English Digest, I'm Pat.
And I'm Kat.
Talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.